Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call the special meeting of the Menomonee Public Library Board of Trustees to order. First, new business items for discussion, action, and possible approval as the presentation of the draft library coffee shop agreement by Mark, the village manager.
So at the last meeting of the committee, by a vote of 3-0, they recommended the draft that was on the website and in your packets. We kept the blue line, and that's the one I'll refer to. We accepted the red lines from the prior meeting and went with the minor changes in the blue lines that were made at that meeting. And so the agreement hasn't changed very much. It is a 1-year lease agreement with then 4 additional 1-year renewals if it isn't stopped anytime before that. The agreement is a revenue sharing agreement, 10% of the gross revenue for the coffee shop, and bookkeeping and accounting on a monthly basis will support the 10% revenue. The requirements of the lease are as they have been since the first draft was put into the public realm. I don't know how much you want me to go through. I'll go through as much or as little as you would like. The only thing that I will point out about the agreement is that the attorneys, the village attorney and the attorney for Latitude are still looking at what I would call minor changes to the indemnification clause. I indicated on Friday to the 2 attorneys that I thought that was fine, since that wasn't really part of the operating structure that this body would care most about. And the indemnification is really the technical jargon of relative to indemnifying the village as owner and the library as controlling entity. Other than that, I will answer questions and provide any additional feedback that you would like. The last thing I'll report on is we had a working meeting on last Wednesday morning with the Public Works Director, myself, our maintenance superintendent. Jackie was there, and so were Daniel and Amber from Latitude. And we had a fairly specific discussion about the improvements that would be necessary to make the room upstairs work for a coffee shop. I was very pleased with the outcome of that meeting. Latitude is going to be able to work within sort of a pre-connected, I'll call it, electrical system with the setup that they're bringing in, and then with a pump system for water and sewer. That should be a very sort of streamlined approach as well. And so we came away from that meeting thinking that the improvements that would be necessary upstairs will be fairly minimal, and I have no concerns about those improvements moving forward. The exhibits are as you have in this packet, and they are really meant to show the basic gist of what will be needed on behalf of the village, and also generally what the counters will look like and how they'll be laid out in the room. Beyond that, I think it's probably better for me to answer questions or address specifics.
Okay, so I have a question. So, Mark, can you clarify for me, what is the initial start of, what's the commencement date? Is that the commencement of operation, or is that the commencement after the last signature of the agreement?
So commencement is the last signature of the agreement, and then there is a period for the village to make the changes upstairs. I expect that those can be made very quickly, but after the commencement, there's a 90-day period for Latitude to be able to get everything installed and move forward. In our meeting on Wednesday, Latitude, and I'll just call Daniel Amber Latitude from now on. He's got his team shirt on today, so that seems to work. He indicated that he thought that could be done quicker than that, and they're already making preparations and talking with their the entities that are going to be building these counters and supplying the equipment. But the commencement date is the last signature for the agreement.
So then it's 305 days with, beginning with the commencement date, 305 days within that window that someone says, this isn't working, we'd like to terminate the, sorry, not speaking from this. What is the length of period? Is it at the commencement date, and then we add on 305 days, and that's the withdrawal period?
Yes.
Okay.
Because termination requires 60 days prior to the expiration.
What is 60 days? Why does that mean?
It probably chosen realistically as a reasonable time for the parties to at least have some degree of communication relative to how things are going. But that would give everyone the time to for reasonable notice to terminate the agreement.
The 305 days, right?
Yes.
Because after 305 days, we wouldn't be able to terminate within that initial term, correct?
That is correct.
Okay. Then my next question is with regards to renewal terms. Can you clarify that for me? Does it mean that, so it says automatic renewal for 4 additional 1-year terms. So let's say all is good that first initial term. We go into the next renewal next year. Are we subject then to another 305? That's the window of time that we can withdraw? Or can you clarify that for me?
Every year for the renewal, there's a 60-day period for non-renewal.
And that's at the end of that year.
Yes.
And it's 305 days from the start of whatever the renewal date would be.
Yes.
305 days, and then we're here for another 60, and then it begins again for another term, for 4.
I would say to you, because we don't know the exact timing of this, it was written with broad language rather than specific dates.
Do we need to clarify that? Is that necessary? It seems a little vague to me, so.
We certainly can. If you would like it clarified, we could do that. This is the agreement that was recommended by the coffee shop committee. This body has the ability to approve it with amendments, approve it as is, or turn it down.
For myself, I'd just like clarification in that so that it seems, because why I was confused with this is it seemed either it was every year was a new year, subject to the same rules as the initial term, or was it one big 4-year renewal? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. I would say you think that. It is 4 separate annual renewals, but that could be clarified.
Could we? I'd appreciate
It
that.
could be done as a part of your motion
Okay.
during this proceeding.
Okay. And then lastly, so we're looking at a period of 5 years. What happens after 5 years?
You would, before that, meet and confer and either renegotiate or choose not to.
So this agreement would be null after 5 years, and we would either start a new agreement again or not. Is that what you're saying?
Absolutely. The parties have complete flexibility to do what they will. Even within the 5 years, frankly, if the parties chose to renew and extend, change the terms, that isn't prohibited here, and so it is therefore allowed, and it would be up to the parties.
But in terms of this agreement, 5 years is what this agreement is talking about. And then after that time, some decision is made whether to move forward or not to.
Yeah, but within that 5 years, you get
There's still conversation.
Yeah, rescind the agreement.
Okay, very good. So for myself, I'd like a little clarification on that 3E. That would be my request. And then when we talk about we being the library, are we talking about Jackie being the spokesperson? Is it the library board, or is this something that we put in a policy? Nicole is what I was thinking. So how do we determine who's the spokesperson here for any changes or anything that we would do?
Well, your library director is going to be the main point of contact for the operations. I don't think it works to have the policy body being the operational determinant. So I would think the director would be that person. You'll note that you would also need to make a motion because Jackie would be asked to sign this, so you would want to give her that authority. As we talked at the last committee meeting, as there would be relative concerns about operational issues that aren't contractual,
Right.
then I would think the library board may want to make some policies regarding that. And we talked about a few at the last meeting. And I described them as policy matters, not contractual matters, and I think that could fit. And I think the one we talked about most significantly is sort of that issue of how the coffee shop operates within the full body of the library.
Yes. So that would be a policy then that we would be creating, but in terms of termination, that would be Jackie's voice that would say to term or not. It's not a library board decision, it would be more Jackie's decision. Is that right?
I would say if you're going to terminate this agreement, the library board would be that, would want to be doing that.
So do we need a policy with regards to that?
But with my hat on, I would say no, but that's entirely up to the library.
So it would be something like Jackie would come to us and say, we're hearing from patrons, or for a variety of different reasons. She would report to the library board, and as a board, we would make that decision about termination. Is that what I'm hearing you say?
You certainly could do that, correct.
You could do that.
But that's really up to the library board working with your director.
Right. Jackie, do you have a?
Yeah, that was my understanding of it as well, is that my name is on the agreement,
Yes.
but I'm not signing this on my own decision. I'm only signing it if the library board would approve me to sign it.
But
Just
that-
like a major contract for any sort of thing.
But still, you would have the voice then that would say, you know, we're hearing from patrons, or there's issues here. I'm suggesting termination is what you would bring to the library board. Is that what I'm hearing, or?
I think it would probably be like our other discussions that we have, where if there's any issues or concerns, I would bring them to the table and then we could have a discussion about it together.
Yeah.
Certainly if you want my input, I could definitely give it, but, you know, I wouldn't want to make that decision.
Right. I think just because you're so close to it.
Oh, sure, definitely.
You'll be meeting with Daniel and Amber regularly.
Right.
And so you'll be able to tell what's going on.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. Mark, thank you for answering all those questions.
Sure.
Any other questions?
Well, it's not really a question. At the last committee meeting, we also talked about the potential, and I don't know if this comes in with the operational policy piece, of having collectively deciding on like what what we're going to track or look at on a routine basis, some sort of indicators. Is that part? And I know that, I'm just wondering if you think that's part of that operational policy, or is that separate as like a board document that we would create? And then, I guess, where does that part fit in? Because there was no business plan or no projections provided with this, so it's hard to know, it's hard to evaluate that aspect of it.
Right, yeah, this is really a true incubator approach. That issue of the tracking, I thought was a great discussion, and it would be my point of view that if the library board wants metrics, you ought to make that part of your policy.
The operational policy.
Yes.
So that's the policy that we're creating as an operational policy.
Great. The only caution I would give you is remember that's policy, not contract. And so you would, certainly they overlap and layer in, but you would always want to be careful that your policy doesn't trump the contract.
Well, again, I am not a lawyer, that's why I'm asking all of these questions. So there is a section in this agreement that we referred to about I'm sorry, I'm trying to find it. The section 7, compliance with library policies. So that policy would then fall under that section, so there would not, I don't understand where a policy would trump contract. Like what, can you give an example of what you're meaning by that?
I think it's really the issue of narrowness. The contract's a 3-party agreement, and your policies can't usurp the basic language of this 3-party agreement. But to the extent that there's a full working relationship between the director and the owners, and you have that in policy form, then I think that would be a very good template for them to talk about what's going well, what isn't, just those kinds of things. I think that would be a very positive thing to do.
Thank you.
Nicole, do you have a good plan for this policy? Do you see how this is going to kind of fit in? You do. Okay, good.
And Jackie,
Great at coming up with policies.
Okay. Okay.
And you're right up. Any other questions, comments? Does anybody have any questions for Latitudes?
I did have one. We got a question in from a patron. It's just a point of clarification, which I think is interesting. So if someone places an online order for pickup here at the library, but they don't actually purchase it here at the library, they pay for it online, would that still constitute a library sale in terms of the revenue that the library would be getting?
Your online orders will be attached to the point of sale that goes to the library.
Okay, so where they pick
There
it
is
up?
there's a clear separation between all point of sales.
Okay,
You know, what operates there, you know, Clover is very precise with the separation. If we do a trailer event, point of sale on a trailer clocks
Okay.
in just what the trailer does.
okay, awesome, thank you.
So move on to numbers to C. I move to approve library coffee shop agreement by and between the Village of Menomonee Falls, the Menomonee Falls Public Library, and Latitude Cafe LLC.
And can I interrupt 1 second? I just don't know a point of order. So I've made a decision about this is what I'm going to do here, but I'd like to explain it.
We just need a second first, and then there can be any
Yeah, we
discussion.
can discuss it.
Oh, okay. Then I'll be able to, okay, thank you. That's all, sorry.
I will second that motion.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Now. Yes, now. Okay. I will be voting no to the agreement itself. If there's to be a coffee shop experiment, I don't know how the vote will go, I would hope that it would be a local business, the owners living in Menomonee Falls, and be someone who cares about the community. Daniel and Amber, in my opinion, check all those boxes. I vote no to the agreement because I feel the public, the library board, and the library staff were not given a voice before the agreement was made. This opportunity may or may not have had an impact, but I feel the voices from these individuals was important. In part, this is my fault. This is a learning process for me. In the future, when an ad hoc committee is proposed, I'll be sure to ask more questions, get more details regarding the process and plans going forward before I agree to a committee's formation. I've been thinking about this a lot. To vote yes to this agreement does not sit well with me. I'm pretty vocal about transparency, and I don't feel that the ad hoc committee was very transparent. This is my opinion, with the public, the board, or the staff. And these are the reasons why I vote no. That being said, I'd like to thank all those who participated in the coffee shop comment box that was at the entrance of the library from December until the middle of February. I believe we had 327 responses. All the comments were typed up and received by members of the ad hoc committee, the library board, and also given personally to Latitude owners. Of those 327 responses, roughly 281 responses were in favor of a coffee shop. If this agreement passes, I invite those 281 individuals to turn your favorable responses into frequent visits and purchases at the Latitude coffee shop. It's only in this way that 10% gross revenue promised by Latitude will become more than just reimbursement for the utility costs paid by the library, but will become new books, new programs, renovations, in short, profit for the library as well. The one thing that I would ask is that we have regular board meetings, like a monthly report regarding the shop, and counting of revenue received, comparison between utilities now and a year before, and any other information that would be pertinent, and I don't know if we need a liaison for that. And I'm sorry if this was said on the wrong part of the meeting, but these are my feelings. I feel like this is a leap of faith, and I'll just hope for good things if the agreement passes.
I guess I'll talk next since I've been closest to this whole thing. I'll tell you right now, we have an opportunity here today to enhance the library patron experience, which this is what this is all about. And it's to offer a service that neither the library nor the village have experience in. We're here to approve an agreement with Latitude's Cafe, the library, and the village to have our very own coffee shop in our library. The proposed space is on the second floor between the teen space and the forge. That space has gone virtually unused for 21 years. And even though the original plans had this space set up as a possible coffee shop. So utilities are already set up there. They're already utilized in this library. The lights are on, the heat is on, there's 2 vending machines. So it's not like it's sitting there unused. Latitude is a locally owned and very successful coffee shop. And even better, the owners live basically across the street here in Menomonee Falls. So Latitude has agreed to cover all the labor, furnish all the materials, the equipment, supplies, and this is going to be a hefty investment on their part and really shows the commitments that they want to give back to this community. The village will be responsible for the water, sewer, and electrical updates, and as village manager Fitzgerald said, Latitude has even come up with another method to try to decrease those expenses, which will be very minimal in 605. Latitudes is going to complete all the background checks for all employees, including paying for those. They will maintain professional records at their own expense, and the village and the library will have access to those at all times at no cost. Pretty nice. They're going to follow all the library policies and procedures, and yes, we can set up some to make sure that this new agreement fits that. They will cover all indoor and outdoor signage, and they're going to give 10% of gross revenue back to the library, not net. We've got a lot of comments about net. There's a huge difference there. Because of these discussions, the library will also get a larger waste receptacle, which they are currently in need of, and so that's a nice little addition. The community has spoken, and they want Latitude's Cafe right here in their library, so let's just get this done today.
I personally would like to read one of the comments that we got, because I think that it all kind of speaks to all of us as board members. I'm not loud like you. So this person wrote, absolutely yes. I was a board member for 12 plus years. When we built this place, we thought that we were going to have a coffee shop. Let's take that to fruition. And another income source to keep from the village board. So, just wanted to add that in there too. We got a lot of comments, and a lot of them are positive. I tried to answer the best that we could with the answers that I had. I can't come up with numbers that we don't have, and I apologize for that. But all in all, I think this is a good investment on the village part and also Latitude's. I think we're going to end up making a lot for the library and be able to do a lot of things that we need to get done with this board without having to rely on the village to give it to us. So I am in favor of this.
All right, I was just waiting for anyone else because I feel like I've asked a lot of questions in the last couple of meetings. So I think the idea of a coffee shop is a good one. And I was really excited when it was brought forward by the two of you. And the fact that we received so many comments supporting the idea by community members is definitely a good thing and reassuring as well. And then when I spoke with the 3 libraries that have some sort of coffee shop arrangement, all 3 library directors that I talked with, each for over an hour, spoke very positively about having a coffee shop paired with the library. So where I struggle with, though, is in how the execution of this idea has gone and how the concerns from the community have not been answered in a satisfactory manner, in my opinion. So while this agreement is a 3-way agreement, as was outlined tonight, the agreement was generated between a closed meeting with the village and Latitude. The library was not part of working these details out. And I love the concept of an incubator or testing a new idea or experiment or any of those words that we've been using. I worked with Children's Hospital for 4 years with a team that was responsible for bringing incubator-like ideas to leadership. So I'm very comfortable with trying something new, but as part of this, we had to provide a detailed plan of indicators, financial and otherwise, in order to get the go-ahead. And to my knowledge, there has not been a business plan nor metrics of success or failure designed for this project, a priori. Furthermore, I think to be entirely fair, the incubator idea should have been an open call to any interested coffee shop vendors. I think Latitude has been very generous with their 10% offer, as well as everything you outlined, Anne. But we don't know how that could have been higher or different with a different vendor. So in preparation for the ad hoc committee discussions to review the agreement, as I mentioned, I did speak with 3 different libraries who had coffee shops. Every single one of these librarians, while they were very supportive of the idea, recommended having a rent-based agreement and as much detail in the contractual agreement as possible. And I don't think that this agreement as it stands has enough detail, as I brought up in previous ad hoc committee meetings. I don't think enough time was spent to outline some of the details in vague language. And I know that you addressed this last time about not wanting it to be too narrow, but I do think defining some of the terms would be helpful.
I have a comment. Was Jackie not involved in the process? Because I thought she was.
Go ahead.
I was not at the original meetings between the village and Latitude where they first drafted the agreement. I'm not sure how many meetings were there. I'm not sure how many meetings you had before I came in.
So the very first meeting that I was involved with, what I call a scoping meeting, included the owners and Trustee Lessila and myself and the village attorney. And that was really just to capture in outline form what would be the deal terms, if you will, for potential lease. Then after the lease was drafted, then we had subsequent meetings with you to make sure that it was vetted operationally. And then the lease changed with more significance based on your operational input. And then we started with the committee.
So what was library input that this original draft was made?
We used the chairman of the subcommittee, and then we used the library director to vet the first draft agreement, if you will. And that changed them fairly dramatically. And then that was the draft that went to the committee.
And Mark, is it common that the village does similar agreements to this?
So this is an agreement with a profit company, but we have many such agreements like this with nonprofits for a very wide variety of uses for facilities that we own, including the food pantry, ball fields and sports complexes and things like that. So this is not an unusual agreement for us. And so the deal terms were complicated, especially since the revenue share was the concept going in. It would have been difficult without data to prepare a lease agreement based on some square footage calculation, because I think the incubator part of this would have made that just a very difficult number to come up with.
Thank you.
So just two thoughts with regards to that. Mark, with regards to leases and agreements that we've done ones, I feel like we're kind of a unique situation because Latitude is a for-profit, the library itself is a not-for-profit. Have you created agreements? You say this is standard, and yes, I know for a fact that there are other not-for-profits that have similar agreements. I just feel like we're unique in terms of the not-for-profit, for-profit kind of relationship.
So I agree. The bulk share of the agreements we have are with nonprofits. The library as a governmental entity can enter into such agreements as well as the village. But I'm not aware of any others. We didn't necessarily treat the lease differently, but it would be most clear for me to state that the vast majority of the agreements that we have for other facilities and leases are with nonprofits or other public entities.
But not this unique relationship of a not-for-profit, for-profit relationship.
Correct.
It's a moot point, but it's just
Right.
something to point out that although there are several agreements, and Mark, I trust you implicitly. I just feel like this is kind of a unique place that we're in, so.
I would have to say that I don't disagree with that, but when we were working through this, I honestly could never see where there was a tangible distinction that made this unworkable.
Okay. And Nicole, with regards to what you said, yes, thankfully, I'm glad Jackie was able to speak for the library, but she couldn't speak for the library board because we all have different opinions about things, so. Oh, cool.
Good evening, I'm one of the newer
Yes.
members of the library board, and so I've had a chance to read through a lot of this and kind of go into background. My name is Tom Ewig, in case anybody doesn't know who I am. No, I'm very grateful to be here and to just kind of be able to take part in this. And so a couple of things for me that kind of jump out is, first and foremost, I travel for work and I spend a lot of time in other libraries, okay? And I drink a lot of coffee, just as a weird side note, and this is anecdotal for myself, but I haven't been to a library yet that has a coffee shop, but I can tell you right now, as somebody that travels to different places and utilizes the spaces in public libraries, that I would patron any one of those libraries, whether it's the Pier, Sheboygan, or what have you, and I would absolutely buy a cup of coffee. That all being said, couple of things to note here, and just that I do work with a lot of nonprofits and for-profit entities for that matter, and I think this is a very unique situation in the sense that nonprofits have a goal of breaking even. And nonprofits don't need to make a profit. That's the whole point of being a nonprofit. Having a for-profit entity as a coffee shop coming in here, their incentive is to make money. That's the whole point of opening up a coffee shop in the library in Menomonee Falls and having a venue here. And for us to be able to share in that revenue, their goal is to make money. They're not here to break even or to run a deficit because they can, because they have grants and other things coming in. So their sole point is to make money. And so for us to be able to share in that and to be able to say, hey, you know what, $10 we made this month is a heck of a lot better than no dollars we made this month, I think is an incredibly powerful tool in order to be able to partner with a group that not only has an establishment already, so they have name recognition on County Line and Pilgrim Road. I mean, it's about as close to being in Menomonee Falls as you can, being on County Line Road. And then not only that, but they live in Menomonee Falls. And so the fact that they're citizens here in Menomonee Falls and you know, more than likely patrons of the library and already have the name recognition, and then to be able to bring all that and say, hey, we want to be able to partner with you and to work with you. And I totally get where you're coming with, you know, the policy questions and everything like that. But at the same time, I think it's a great opportunity for us to be able to produce more revenue for the library to put into things that, you know, we have talked about that need to be done, or that you all have talked about that need to be done. And in order to get done, we need to have money to be able to do that. And so this, I think, is a great way for us to be able to do that. And also, you know, speaking as a parent, bringing my kids here, I'll tell you what, I bring a cup of coffee with me almost anywhere I go. So the fact of being able to buy a cup of coffee here, I guarantee you I'll be utilizing it not only just with my time at the library, but, you know, my family's time at the library as well. And so and not to say that I haven't read the concerns, because I absolutely have. And I've read the concerns and I've read through a lot of it, but I think the value outweighs the drawbacks at this point.
So as I said, it's a leap of faith. So we'll see. We're going to hope and pray that Latitude does really, really well, and that the cost of utility is far minimal to the great profit that they're going to do, and thus will be a great plus to the library.
Any other discussion, questions, comments? All right. All those in favor of adopting the coffee shop agreement by and between the Village of Menomonee Falls, the Menomonee Falls Public Library, and Latitude Cafe LLC, say aye.
Aye.
Can you show hands? Yep. Okay. All those opposed, say nay. 5 to 2, motion passes. Next meeting will be Wednesday, February 28th at 6 p.m. right here for the regular library board meeting. We are adjourned.